Welcome back to another video of Hoot and Poop. So in today's video, I will be sharing with you guys a understanding of what quantum encryption is all about, as well as the limitations that we need to accept, as well as we try our best to overcome them. Okay. Now, if you haven't watched the previous video, please go and watch it. I will share the playlist in the link below. Okay. Because if you were to just hop onto this video, it may be a little bit too confusing for you, okay? Now, when we talk about quantum encryption, there is something that we need to understand, which is quantum key distribution, in short, QKD. So basically, it is a secure communication technique that uses photons, or rather the properties of photons, okay, to encrypt secret keys that can be shared between two parties to protect their communications. Okay, as shared in my first video, quantum encryption taps onto photons. And because it taps onto photons, by hacking it, okay, it alters the laws of physics, which at this point, at this moment, given our knowledge, it is not possible. So because of that, okay, this technique, QKD, or rather in terms of transmitting encrypted keys via photons, is deemed unhackable. Okay? Unfortunately, there is an issue with this QKD, is that the distance can only go up to 60 miles, which is actually not a very good distance to cover if you talk about a worldwide security of transmissions of secret keys. Okay, because anything above it, anything above 60 miles, the signal wave, okay, will wane, right? Now, even if we use optical fiber, and even if you can go up to 300 kilometers or even 186 miles, okay? Even though it is possible to get some quantum information transmitted, but it is less than about 1 bit per second. Okay, so this is really very slow, because why? When we talk about in terms of speed wise, okay, we are talking about megabits per second or gigabits per second. If you were to stretch it to just 300 kilometers, okay, which is 3 times of what we can cope, okay, it will take years to just transmit the key, because it's transmitting 1 bit per second when normal days is about megabits or gigabits. So it doesn't make sense. So because of that, the only possible solution is to use satellite, because satellite taps onto the vacuum of space, okay, where there's no other elements to disrupt the flow. Okay, so with the use of satellite, okay, we are able to stretch the distance without compromising the quality of the transmission to about 430 miles or 700 kilometers, which is not sufficient, in my opinion, to cover the whole world as well. Okay, so of course, based on Arqit's plan, they plan to launch 2 satellites up by 2023. Okay, so this is something that we have to take note of. So if you ask me, after reading so much, I thought to myself, okay, there are a few properties that we need to ensure for a successful quantum encryption. So the first property is that it must cover the length. Because if you talk about quantum encryption being the norm, it must be able to cover a worldwide transmission. Number 2, it must be secured, meaning to say it's not hackable. And number 3, we need speed. It doesn't make sense if you send this is slower than the current encryption, then might as well just stick to it. So these are the 3 things that we must cater for. Okay. Now, this article, they also talk about, for QKD protocols, so you can either send keys globally or trustlessly, but you can't do both, right? This is the current problem. Okay, so trustless, meaning to say that no piece of infrastructure between the sender and the recipients can be trusted. Okay, because if there are infrastructures that's placed between the sender and the recipients, these infrastructure may be hacked, it may be compromised, and the information may be gone. That's something that we have to look into it. Okay. So the current QKD, quantum key distribution protocol, is that there is a limitations in terms of the distance. Okay. However, for Arqit, right, they have the potential to overcome this issue with their ARC-19, which is their own QKD protocol. So their satellites can distribute keys on a global basis, and the satellite never remembers the key. Okay. And this is part of their patented protocol works. Okay, so what does this tell you? Remember I mentioned there are 3 properties that we have to look in for QKD. The first, it must cover the distance, because we're talking about a global scale basis. The second, it must be secured. Okay. And the third, they must have speed. So with satellite being vacuumed in the space, okay, we are able to increase the speed. So this is, the speed is settled. In terms of quantum encryption, especially now the fact that the satellite will never remember the key, we have settled the portion of it being secure. Now, in terms of third one, which Arqit has said, their patent, okay, allows a global basis or global transmission. So this is something that is very positive to Arqit. Now, I don't want after this video, okay, and then everybody starts buying them and so on. No, it's not. What I want to highlight to you guys is that this is what Arqit says, Arqit claims to be. Whether or not is it true, we still have to wait until 2023 when the satellites are launched successfully, because to launch satellites, it do also take certain form of risk. Now, when the satellites are launched successfully, and when customers come on board, all right, and how do we track it? We can track based on number one, is there a growing trend in terms of the number of customers? Is there a growing trend in terms of revenues, customer spending on them? Okay, so, and also if there's any signs of customer leaving Arqit. So if all this, right, it shows a positive note, it just means to say that whatever Arqit has claimed to be global, speed, and secure, it do make sense, because if we don't, I'm pretty sure customers will just leave them. So these are things that when we read any news articles, we must read between the lines, have a thought process of it to understand what are the things, what are the potential that is being promised by the company, and then we track them accordingly. Okay, so I will leave the rest of the news articles for you to read. Okay, but I basically have extract the key pointers here and to share with you guys. All right, so as always, just disclaimer, whatever I'm sharing here are just for educational purposes. I have a position in Arqit, so please seek professional advices for any buy or sell recommendation. It's definitely not for my channel. All right, so with that, I hope you can like and subscribe, as well as comment on my video if there's anything. And I'll see you in my next video. Invest safe.